Hey folks, welcome back to Real Southern Outdoors. Today, I've got two tips for you. One's going to help you save money on your fishing line. The other one, I'm going to show you how to reset the memory on your fishing line. Stick with me. Okay folks, first tip of the day, I'm going to show you. Now this is nothing new. For you folks that's been fishing for a while, you've probably seen it before. But I do have some folks that are new to fishing that's come to my channel that, they've been asking a few questions and they're learning. So bear with me. If you know this trick, stick with me. I got a good one coming for you. First trick, when you're spooling up fishing line. Now we know fluorocarbon can get expensive. And when you're fishing with fluorocarbon, you never fish with that whole spool of line. So a trick to save some money is take a simple cheap line, and this is just like Berkeley Trilene. This is a monofilament, and I like to use that high-vis green. And I can fill up about a half a spool, and I can see it's on there. Now when I put my fluorocarbon on, as I cut my line, or if I break my line or whatever, when I'm changing lures, I'm cutting it off and retying, as I get low, I can start seeing that high-vis green shine through, and I know that it's getting time to replace my line. Okay, there's your first tip. There's how you can save money putting backing on your reel, and you don't have to fill it up with fluorocarbon, which will save you money. Like I say, you can fill up 2 reels out of 1 spool versus just 1. There's tip number 1. Fill it up with backing, and yes, I'm going to put some line on this today, but I'm going to show you tip 2. We're going to talk about line memory. Now, I was at a fishing expo, and a gentleman come up and asked me. We were standing there talking at a booth, and he said, well, I really fish braid, because we were talking about fishing monofilament and fluorocarbon and braid and everything. He said, well, I wind up, I fish braid more than I do anything. He said, everybody talks about fluorocarbon. He said, but honestly, he said, I get more backlashes with fluorocarbon and monofilament than I do braid. And I said, well, it's line memory. And he said, what do you mean? And I said, well, think about it. I said, you get a spool, and I'll just use this spool for example, and there's other spools here. I'll grab one like this, and I got one in some water here. But you look at the size of these spools, and then look at the size of the spool that is on this reel. You say, what does that have to do with backlashes, and what does that have to do with fishing? When they spool this line on these reels, when it comes off the machine and they spool it on here, it retains a memory of the size of this spool. You've seen line come off and it curls. Let me just pull some line off right here and show you. If you can see that high-vis green, you see that coil that it likes to... See how it's coiling up that size? Well, compare that to the size of the spool that is in that reel. That's that line memory. It is wanting to stay in that size coil, just like that. So if that line wants to stay in a coil, just this size that is coming off this reel. Now if you'll think about when you make a cast, that line is trying to uncurl. So what it's doing is wrapped on a spool that is what? Maybe 1/8 of the size of what it come off of. So it's trying to retain that memory size. So when you make that cast, that line wants to come back apart like that. It wants to go back to its memory of that size, about like this. Well, you say, how can I fix that? Well, what I want you to do is when you're spooling on line, I want you to get you a little bowl of water. Run the water in your sink, just the hot water. Run it and get it good and warm, where you can put your hand in. You should be able to hold your hand in that water. You don't want boiling water. You don't want to boil your line. You just want good warm water that you can hold your hand in and it be warm to the touch. And put your spool of fishing line in it, your fluorocarbon or monofilament, but I've been doing this trick for years. Put it in that hot water and let it sit 10 or 15 minutes before you spool it up. Now when you take it out and spool it up, that warm water is going to relax the memory in that line, and it's going to help it go from this size to this size when you spool it up. And another trick you can use, I do as well, is I use this KVD line conditioner. I will use real snot. It's Both line conditioners, I like them both, but this is my favorite. I like it. I don't get paid for it. I buy it myself, and that's what I use. But spray some line conditioner on it and spool it up. But you'll see that line memory, that warm water will help reset that memory closer to the size of this. If you'll see here. Okay, let me show you here an example of line memory. Now this is what come off the spool here. This is how you reel it when you spool it up on your reel. If you don't put it in hot water, this is what it's going to want to retain. If you put it in warm water, do you see the size difference there? This is what's on the spool. I've reset that memory to the size of my spool. And you say, well, how does that help me in reducing backlash? Well, when you make your cast, and we know that backlash really comes from overrunning that spool. It's getting faster than the line's coming off. But when you have the spring effect of line wanting to go back to its memory this size, it's wanting to uncoil and go back to here, versus this size, this increases your chance of a backlash being greater than this. If that makes sense to you, I hope it does. But this trick has been using for years. It's passed down to me. Even you used to hear years ago the manufacturers would tell you the same thing that I'm telling you now. It's just something that tricks that we're not told as much. But everybody on the internet now, things are getting out and telling secrets that they used to didn't tell. So I guess why not tell it, right? And I'm not the first one to do it. So anyway, there's a little tip to help you there. Okay, I hope that explained line memory and how it affects backlashes, and and how this will help you out. So now that I've showed you that, let me show you what I do. I just take my line out. I've let it sit about 15 minutes or so in that warm water. Okay, I'm going to show you how I connect. This is just one of the knots I use. I'm going to show you how I connect my fluorocarbon to my backing. You can use about any knot you want to. Okay, here's a knot you can use if you're worried about your line coming loose. Take your backing, this high vis line that's already on your reel. Take it and just tie you a overhand knot. Just a simple little knot like that. Make you a little loop in it. Now that's coming from your reel. Take your fluorocarbon that you're going to be adding to it. Stick it right through. See, it's hard to see this stuff. Not only is it invisible to fish, when you get older, it's invisible to people. Run. Get it here where I can show you here. See that? Just run that fluorocarbon through that loop on that high vis line and pull that down. You don't have to pull it down tight. Just snug it down where that loop is snug on this fluorocarbon. And you say, that ain't going to hold. You're right. What I want you to do is take that tag of that fluorocarbon, and I know this is hard to follow along. You see I got the tag of that fluorocarbon, the tag of that monofilament, that high vis line, and take your other piece that's running to your spool. Get all three of those in your hand like that. That's right. Take the tag line of your fluorocarbon, bring it up and make a loop just like this, like you're going to tie a uni knot. And well, that's exactly what you're going to tie a uni knot. Wrap that line around all three of those pieces about, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 times. You don't have to do it many times really, because it's never going to have any pressure on it. But you just want to pull that knot down. Grab your tag of your monofilament. Keep pulling it out. You can pull that down snug, and that'll make a small knot for you. You won't have a big knot sticking up in there. Take your scissors, line trimmers or whatever. Cut that knot off close. Okay, we're ready to spool it up. I'll usually just slide my spool out like that. Show you a little trick I use. I'll take me a rag. Take some of this line conditioner. I'll wet a rag pretty good with it. Spray my reel, the line on my reel, and I pull my line through that rag where it's soaked with line conditioner, and I hold it out of front near that first eye, and I start spooling up. Now that's going to put line conditioner on that line as it goes on. Plus I'm holding tension on that line. It's going to help it to spool up smooth. While I'm spooling this up, I'll go ahead and tell you, I got some project I'm working on with the Suburban. We're setting that thing up, doing some modifications to it. We got a rack coming up. Lots of different things inside. We're setting it up like an overlander, I guess you would say. Like a camper or whatever, a kitchen in it. We're going to be doing some adventures. So keep watching the channel. That'll be coming out soon. Be looking for it. Okay. I've got that one spooled up. You can see I filled that up. Now, I got plenty of line on there now. I won't make you watch me run it through the eyelets and tie it off and everything, but I hope these tips will help you. Don't forget, hit that like and subscribe. And as I always say, until next time, may God bless you, and we'll catch you later.